film I'm going to mention is one that me and Bill talked about quite a lot because this lingered with me, called Bad Guy by Kim Ki-duk, who's now deceased Korean filmmaker. And, his movies are, for a lot of people, very hard to take. They're sometimes they're extremely intense and grotesque scenes, but always realistic and natural, except for Mobius. Mobius is a gross out movie, but it's obviously insane satire. And Mobius, there's no dialogue in it. And I didn't notice that until I reviewed it. That's how the storytelling is. So I did not, I'm like, oh wait, nobody said a single word. The only information you get is he goes on the internet, the one guy, and the stuff is translated in English about penis transplants. Because that's it's the premise is crazy mom catches the husband cheating, tries to cut off the husband's penis. Instead, in spite, cut off the son's penis. The son's already kind of messed up about the other woman. Both women are played by the same actress. I didn't notice that either. I was like, I was a moron watching this movie. And I feel like Kim Ki-duk played a trick on me. And basically, every imaginable premise that could possibly flow out of that premise happens. Like, are they going to find the penis? Are they going to transplant the penis? Can he have sex? Does he have sensation? Then kids find out about it and bully him, and then it gets into this, and then, but still the other woman wants him. And now that I watch it a second time, and I'm like, oh, it is the same woman who plays his mother. Oh wow, this is really fucked up. And so it becomes comical after a while. And I think deliberately, because it could have been really sad and horrible and morbid, and there are moments that are, but it's just so well acted with no dialogue. And it's like you get all the beats. So yeah, that's Mobius. But anyway, Bad Guy is another movie by him. And since I spent so much time on Mobius, I'll just say real quick, Bad Guy is basically a movie where a very unlikable character, a thug, modern South Korea, he's like a pimp. And Bill can help me out on this if he wants, because he's much more familiar with this movie than I am. I've only seen it that one time. And he basically kind of finagles this girl that he sees on a park bench who's kind of seemingly innocent over time into becoming his prostitute and being absorbed into his lifestyle. And it's done in a strange way because she does resist it, and a lot of things happen, and you're still thinking he's kind of an asshole, but then you see that he's a typical Kim Ki-duk character, like the guy in Crocodile Bill, or the guy in Pieta. They start out and they're just irredeemable, and then you start to go, this guy's mentally fucked up, man. He grew up in a fucked up slum. His mind's all messed up, and you see them starting to do kind things with these women. And to me, that's brilliant writing, to make you sympathize with that kind of character. I do it sometimes in my writing, but I've almost gotten to the point where I can't too much, because I'm almost like, I really can't redeem a sociopath sometimes. Some characters are irredeemable. But that's the quandary of this movie, and Bill pointed this out to me. It's not the issue of, is the guy redeemed by the end of the movie? Because he finally gets her and they run away together, and in order to make money, she has sex with guys on the road, but they're in a relationship. And the quandary is whether he's redeemed or not, but just that it is. He's just showing you this. How do you feel about it, Bill?
Well, I think you misunderstand his movies almost completely.
See, I thought I understood.
He has a transcendent view of humanity. Right. He's not a moralist. These are not irredeemable characters. The guy is a pimp, but he sees this girl and he knows she's a whore. And the whole movie is how she finally realizes that she is too.
But see, that's such a...
And he doesn't have an idea of anything being good or bad. Right. This is simply what she is. And a pimp knows how to pick out a whore. I mean, you can be a pimp, be on the corner, all these girls come by, this one is the one that's going to go for it. And he knows that. He sees
if you're offended,
he knows she's a phony trying to pretend to be who she is. She's the one who was irredeemable, and he redeems her by showing her who she is.
I never thought that. That's heavy.
Also in Mobius, the director doesn't give a shit about whose penis is hooked onto whose. He's seeing humanity like a god looking down at a bunch of like we will look at dogs. I mean, would you go out and if two dogs are fighting, would you choose which side you're going to be on, or would you say that you're a bad dog? You know, he has a transcendent viewpoint of humanity, and he doesn't see anything moralistically. He sees just the way it really is, you know, without judgment.
Any of you guys seen his movies that have a comment at all?
No.
Let me ask you one thing. Besides the lead character being a smut peddler, what else are there other talents in the sleaze?
Well, it really is, like Bill says, it's really just showing what happens. It's not, I mean, it's well shot, it's well acted, but you know, obviously I personally think almost every South Korean movie made in the last 20 years is beautiful. But you know, even the shitty ones look good.
But is he violent? Is he violent?
At times, a little violence. I mean, you know, when a Kim Ki-duk movie and anything can happen.
I don't think
it's not gory.
He is not interested in his script to show anything about him. There's no backstory, no this or that. Simply what is happening right now. We don't know anything about him really, other than that he's a pimp.
But you start to read his face over the course of the movie, and luck turns against him. He starts getting his ass kicked, and you know, all this stuff. And I know a lot of feminists would hate this if they took this literally, which is the opposite of what we're saying, Bill. You know, that, oh, wait, suddenly he's getting his ass kicked. Is he the bad boy? And then the girl's like, oh, I'll be your hooker. You know, but
bad guy is an ironic title. I mean, the thing is, he's not a bad guy.
But you know what's ironic about any women who would get offended by that is the three most popular characters. I'm a big soap opera fanatic. The three most popular soap opera characters ever were all rapists, and they all at some time had a love affair with the person that raped. And they made a lot of money, and a lot of women went to see them everywhere they went. Actually, the one guy, Roger Howarth, who arguably is the most talented soap actor working today, he was first playing the one character, Todd Manning, and he went to an event. These two girls started going, "Rape me, Todd!" And he the next day he went to the producer. He's like, "Yeah, I'm out. I'm not. This is not what I want to stand for." And he was so popular, they brought him back. And they made him more evil, but they went away from the sexual assault. Then they got this other writer who leaned into him being kind of more mischievous and weird and humorous, more mentally ill. And then you find out he starts faking DID in court. And he says the reason he has DID is because not his biological, but the man who raised him, who was the character that died, raped him, like sodomized him when he was 10 years old. And at the end, when he gets he gets out of trouble with the law, but he's like, I got to leave because everybody hates him because he lied about the DID, seemingly. And so his best friend says, just tell me, Todd, did your father rape you? And he's like, the truth is a lie, Sam, and the lie is the truth. And he walks off, and he looks so sad. He gets on the plane by himself because he's rich. And all of his alters start talking to him. So then he's written out of the show. And the biggest mistake that show, One Life to Live, ever made was bringing him back. Because that should have really been, because when they did bring him back, they start pretty much giving you the idea he did fake it. He wasn't raped by his dad. But you watch that episode, it's extremely obvious. Yes, he was raped by his father. And that's why he raped women, you know. But my point is these kind of characters they're archetypal. You know, and it's just they're very politically incorrect now, and I don't pay attention to any of that because to me it's art, and I just check my morality at the door.
What soap opera was that character?
One Life to Live.
One Life to Live. Yeah.
Wow, they had a rapist that we are supposed to kind of to cheer.
Oh, you want? No, it's even worse than that. On General Hospital, the rapist became the hero of the show.
Yeah, he became the hero of the show. But the thing about General Hospital is it had enough great writing. If you follow the whole arc of Luke, which I did my whole life, you finally learn why he's like he is. And they don't try to, he left the show as a hero for a while. And then he comes back. And he's kind of, because he began as kind of a low life kind of guy. And then you find out he's basically an uneducated polymath. He is a polymath. Like he can hack computers, he can do disguises. And he literally saved the world from a weather machine powered by an ice Princess Diamond. And so, but when he comes back, you know, the actor was like, I want to contribute, collaborate with this. Don't glamorize the rape part, but keep the fact that they love each other, but have the audience experience it realistically through his son, when the son learns the truth years later. And then you as the audience see the flashbacks, and now you're rethinking it. You know, it's like, and he himself is rethinking it. And he rethinks it, and his wife rethinks it. And by the end of the show, by the time Gary leaves the show, you're going to think, he's going to end up with Laura, of course. He doesn't. They're permanently broken up, and he's gone.
That sounds like Almodovar mixed with Buñuel, and I mean, and that on a daytime.
I would not suspect daytime had anything that good on it.
Well, you know, the part that I think, well, I'll tell you what, the deal with daytime is that they have to, it's always so attenuated, and it takes so long to get from one thing, and they're also having to deal with so many other little stories. You don't always narrow your focus down to catch where there's usually a good storyline going along like that, where you get some really solid development, but then it's flanked by all this garbage, and it just you just don't realize what you're getting.
I remember Jeffrey Sweet talking about how he used to write One Life to Live, and how he said it was basically like doing crossword puzzles because it was so formulaic. Jeffrey Sweet.
I don't know him. I do know Michael, whatever his name, I met on MySpace, who, after I got to know him, he did start becoming a day writer for One Life to Live for a long time.
Yeah, Jeffrey Sweet wrote some really good plays, like the Action Against Saul Schumann.
Well, the guy who created Todd Manning and that whole era was Michael Malone, and he had been a playwright.
Yeah.
And he makes a priest character too, and then he makes the bad girl who's gang raped, and then against his will, the rapist becomes the most popular character on the show.
Yeah. And then the person watches a gang rape and then goes to after the chapter is over, goes to like Donahue.
No, I mean, what I'm saying is like, it's an arc. Like, to me, it's like a 30-year version of what Bill's describing in Kensington. It's like, if you're not like me and you follow the arc, or like Keith, all the dark shadows, you know, all the Twin Peaks.
Well, take the movie, The Night Porter. Now you have a real complex relationship there, which you know, on first sight you think is pretty screwed up, but
Rampling and Dick Burgard.
But I mean, a lot of relationships may begin that way, you know. And
I think Night Porter is very romantic. I'm weird. I think Secretary is one of the most romantic movies ever made, and I've dabbled in that lifestyle, and my ex-fiance was part of it, and this was after I'd seen Secretary. And that movie is iconic, you know, but to me, it's just like, I don't know, I think weird. It's like, to me, it's obviously about love all along. I mean, love and sex don't need to be disconnected. And pain don't have to be disconnected.
In fact, I would say when you're doing film, there's really no way to separate it. You know, if it's just sex, it's going to be just porn. You know, if you're going to start working story in, you're bringing emotion, you're bringing feelings, and all of a sudden we're going to impose that in there in some capacity, whether it's the search for love, it's the lack of love, it's something, it's going to be a part of that in film. You know, and Marco, back to your question, and probably coming from outside of the US, the whole little daytime soap world, you know, in its heyday, I'm going to say like the 80s to about the mid 90s. Yeah, 80s through to the mid 90s probably I would probably say was the heyday for this stuff. Yeah. You know, like the One Life to Live story was during a period of a few years, I'm going to say about 5 years, One Life to Live, that just had an ongoing excellence going through there. There really wasn't a dud going for about 5 years there. And when we're talking about the Luke story on General Hospital, it's similar to like what we're talking about with Stan Lee and stuff. There's the retrospective look, and then there's the in the moment. And I remember in the moment and being shocked myself by how easily the masses out there were willing to just pretend Luke never raped Laura because they just liked Luke and Laura together. And you know, and so the rape didn't matter. You don't talk about the rape. We just don't talk about it.
But
and in a way, when we come back and we revisit it later, it has to be talked about because we have changed as a society already. We've evolved a little bit, and we can't just do what society used to do and just pretend these things don't happen. Well, and that's what Henry was talking towards.
Was Susan Lucci in that?
Susan Lucci.
No, that was on My Children.
That's on All My Children.
Yeah, Susan Lucci was on, but because that's a shared universe, she occasionally had popped up on One Life to Live and on General Hospital because they're all shared universe.
It's getting real, man. We're talking with our hands now.
Yeah.
So,
well, there was. I read a comic book that had like characters from Guiding Light in it.
Hey, wow!
I told you about. It had something to do with it.
And there was one character. I'm not familiar with Guiding Light at all, but there was a character called Hammer, and the Marvel character's like, "Why are you called Hammer? You don't even carry a hammer."
It's not Hammer. It's not Hammer. It's Mallet.
Well, you know, I'm supposed to be moderating this and getting us back on track, but since you're talking my language, so I'm just letting it keep going.
Yeah, wow. I mean, all I want to piggyback off what Keith said was, I want to say this because, you know, I always champion the underdog in this industry who came up with ideas and who didn't get enough attention in some ways, even though they may have gotten rich. Anthony Geary is the highest paid soap opera actor ever. He was able to afford a chateau in Copenhagen, and that's where he's permanently retired. So he's like 70. Mm-hmm. He's 5 years older than Bill. So he's mid-70s. He retired when he was 67. From General Hospital. Now, this is the
76. 76.
And the thing about him is when he came back to he was always an intellectual, but you didn't really know much about soap actors and their politics or what writers they were into. You kind of assumed they were all like Hollywood. And it's really turned out to be a lot of them had whole lives. My mom found out one of her favorite actresses was a Wiccan, and she just like, I can't watch that bitch anymore. I was like,
this whole stuff everyone's talking about was initiated by you saying that you couldn't understand how the women would have liked this character who was a rapist.
I think we proved it, right?
Look at outside of television soap operas. Mm-hmm. Look at all the other media, romance novels, all kind of things that women read and did. They always loved the rapist.
What do you think, Shelly?
The forceful man who finally has sex with them is a hero to all the women who read romance novels and watch soap operas. So to me, it's not so unique that women would.
I think part of that fantasy is that fantasy that they can tame them.
It's just a fantasy. Is all it is.
And Almodovar did that movie Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, that Atomy.
Oh wow,
yeah. With Banderas and Victoria Abreu. No, the reason why I asked that, guys, I'm going to explain you, is because, I mean, if you were talking about some sort of other medium, okay, but I was just surprised that, on daytime television, considering the way I see the people who watches that, I thought that, that will never pass, that will never, that's...
you're talking about the 80s. I mean, an age of total filth, especially in the United States.
Yeah.
So it's not unique to me.